Thank you for watching this recording of our live CCH Portal Q&A webinar. On screen, you will see the first of 4 pages listing the topics that we covered during the webinar. If you wish, you may freeze the video and read through the contents pages and then zoom through the video to the appropriate section that you wish to watch. The full recording will start shortly. Thank you.
Good morning again, everyone. So I'm going to run through, as Richard said, some of the frequently asked questions. And the first one I'm going to start with is how you can deal with a situation where the activation email that you've sent to a client has time expired. So just to remind you, first of all, where the setting is that controls what that time expiry period is, in your CCH Central, if you go to File and Maintenance, and then Portal, and click on the Security tab there that I'm showing you there, you will see in the middle here there is a setting for the email activation link, and you'll see mine is currently set to expire in 7 days after issue. So the process, if you're not familiar with it, is you will send an activation email to the client, and that 7-day period will start ticking. And obviously if they don't actually respond within that period and they then subsequently go and click the link, then the problem they'll have is that it will have been expired. So what I'm going to do now is show you how to resend an activation email to them if you get yourself in that situation. So I'm just going to open up my clients here within my central, and you'll see as well, useful tip I suppose, but I'm showing here the ones that are portal activated. I've actually dragged my portal icon over to the left next to the client code because I find that a little bit easier. That's just for my own benefit. Now we've got a client here, Miss Adina Monsoon, who we have activated, but she hasn't clicked her link within the period and it's expired. So I'm going to double click to open up her record, and I'm then going to go to the Message Center tab, highlighted there, and if I click on that, when we look at it, of course it appears that her message center is active. It no longer tells us that that we need to activate her. But if I click on the associated contacts icon, large icon on the ribbon at the very top there, we can see Adina's the contact here that's portal activated, but you can see the status there is pending because she hasn't clicked it. Now if I right click on her name there, I can actually resend the activation email, and the system will just confirm, are you sure you want to send a new activation email for this client? That will obviously make the previous email link invalid, and the email has been successfully sent. It's as simple as that. If you just want to see that process now, if I just go to Adina's email account here, so we have sent 2 links previously, but if I just check for new emails, hopefully, if everything's working right, we'll see the new email appear in there, and she'll be able to click that and carry on. So that's the first thing I wanted to show you. The next question that comes up quite a lot is how can you send a document through Portal for approval? Now the answer is there are many ways that you can do this. The first one I'm going to show you is very basic from within the message center. So if I open up my client Fashionista magazine here and I go to their message center, I can simply click on create message, the large icon at the top, and if I want to send a message to one of my contacts at this particular client, so let's say I'm going to contact Fleur, and I want to actually send a document for approval, I can click on the little paperclip icon to the right there of the message, and that will let me browse. Either I can use the browse button to browse the files directly on my computer, so if I click browse, I can go to my computer, and there we are. I've got a PDF file that I can open, and I can attach that. I can also click on the document center, and if I am using document management, I can go to the document center for this particular client, and I can select another document from the document center, and I can also attach that at the same time. And I'm doing this from within the message center of the client. Once I've got a number of documents attached, if I want any one of those or both of them to be approved, then I just need to click the requires approval button. Now, once I've done that, I've got a number of options at the bottom here, as you can see. So once you've actually asking for approval, and again, because I've got 2 contacts for this particular client, I could say I want to select both of these people as potential approvers if I'd sent the message to Patsy as well. And then the further option is, if you're selecting multiple people to approve, do you want all of those users to have to approve or any particular one of them? So in this particular situation, depending on the approval you're looking for, it might be that just one approval out of a number is all that you're looking for, or you actually want everybody in the chain to approve the document. Now, before I actually click OK on this, there's one other thing I want to point out to you, and this also does crop up as an issue sometimes, and that is if you see here the folder where these documents are currently sitting. So because we've attached these documents from, rather than being from a particular module within the system, we're doing this within the messaging center of the client. They're currently sitting in the shared folder. Now, the shared folder is a temporary folder space within the folder structure where, if, for instance, the client sends you a document, it will sit in the shared folder until you choose to file it. Now, if we're requiring approval for a document, then we can't leave it in the shared folder. We need to actually file it somewhere in a structure so that when it's approved, we have a proper record of it. And so therefore, before I can click this box, I need to click the drop down next to shared and pick a suitable folder, let's say for instance, correspondence 2018. The second file, if I'm not asking for that to be approved, can stay in the shared folder, or again, I can move that one as well, and then I can click OK. And you'll see that once I do that, I get a yellow banner in the top of the message here telling me that the PDF file will be sent for approval of Mrs. Fairthorpe. And I can click send, obviously add a subject and a relevant message. So let's just put file for approval, and let's just send that message. So that's one way that, that's one way that you can send a message from within the message center. There are obviously lots of other ways that you can send messages. So let's have a look at some of those. For instance, there we go, that's our message, confirmation our message is being sent. And you'll see here within the message center, we've got there the fact that the message history has been updated. So one of the other ways that we could send a message, send a document for approval, is from directly, for instance, from within the personal tax module. So let's open up the record for Patsy Stone. There's a prize for anyone who notices that we're using an absolutely fabulous theme here. It was the only inspiration I could come up with when I was creating some test data, so apologies if you're not a fan. So I'm going to go into the tax returns tab for Patsy Stone, just here, and you'll see we've got a number of tax returns. I'm going to click on the 2016 tax return, and I'm going to click on the online filing button at the top there to start the online filing process, because what I need to do once the tax return is validated is I will generate the IR mark, and you'll see at the moment that there is a publish to portal option there, but it's grayed out. As soon as I generate the IR mark for this tax return, which hopefully won't take too long, and once that's successfully generated, the publish to portal option will become available. So there we go. There we go. So you see now I can click publish to portal, and I can decide which elements of that I want to include in the portal pack. I can click the publish, and there we go. The whole lot's been bundled up in a PDF, ready to send to Patsy Stone. I can obviously use the insert template because this is a tax return, and if I select that template, because in this instance, the system knows that we're actually including this bundle of this document from the personal tax element. If I click on the pay-per-click for approval, again, I can put it into the right folder, whatever it might actually be, and I can send this off for approval. But because I'm using a template, obviously the system knows that the relevant fields to fill in for the template. And I can send that message off. So that's doing the same thing through personal tax. Just to show you a couple of other places quickly as well, in terms of corporation tax, I'll just close some of these windows down. So if I go back to our magazine and I go to their tax returns tab, this is within the corporation tax. I can open up the period of account record here, and once I've done that, you'll see again that there is a publish option in the bar at the top. There we go, and the icon there just says, so it's not quite as obvious, it's an arrow, but it does say publish to, and I've again got an option of document management or portal, so exactly the same. I can publish directly from portal to portal from here. So I won't actually do that because you've seen me do that a number of times now. If I go back to the client in the accounts production tab for this same client, the same thing, I can open up and I can publish directly from here. If I have the accounts production record open and I click on the financial statements on the left hand side, then you'll see I don't actually have any data in here, but you'll see again a publish to portal option at the top there. And again, I can do that and publish it from here. If you are also using document management, then again you can publish directly from the document center. So I'm just going to close this record down, and as I say, once that has, I'm going to just take you into the document center for this particular client and show you how you can also select individual documents or batch up some documents. And there we go. So there's our message generated there in the PDF. So I'll just close that. I won't actually send it for now. And as I said, go back to the actual document center here for this particular client because they are we are using document management for this particular client. We've got a number of documents here, including, of course, those items that I've been sent as portal messages, because portal messages do get automatically saved into the document management center as well, if you weren't aware. But again, I can select an individual or a number of documents here, and I can click the Publish to Portal button at the top and quickly send these directly to the client or clients as well. As I said, if I've got more than one, I can select all the contacts. I can insert a template if that's relevant, and I can click the paperclip for the approval. And in this instance, they're already in the correspondence folder. If I say that these documents require approval, as I've said, just to repeat myself, we can say that we want approval from both ladies here, and all of them must approve in this particular instance if I'm going to send it that way. Okay, so that's shown you a number of areas. You can also do this. So you can also do this from practice management. So you can send bills as well directly if you want to. The other kind of issues that came up in the email that was sent out last week was really around the kind of general setup of Portal itself, and sort of to make sure that you get the most out of using Portal. One of the things that hopefully you'll be aware of in the file maintenance and Portal, in the Portal customization tab, there are a number of things here that you've hopefully already done for your practice, but just to kind of reiterate, you enter your practice name. There is a Portal footer, accounting done fabulously, and you'll see where that appears in a moment. You can change the banner color of your page and obviously upload your logo. And then a number of tick boxes here that I think it's worth pointing out, particularly the two here that say show the how to use Portal on the logging page and the activation page. That's two very useful, very short videos that I think you'll find your clients will find most useful when they're first using Portal, in getting familiar with how they navigate around the system and so on. And the other question here about reminder emails. So all those documents that we've sent for approval, we've sent that initial email, and the way that my system's currently set up is that in 3 days' time, if nothing happens, because I've currently got this set to 3 days, then there will be an automatic reminder email. And then again, 3 days after that, if the document still remains unapproved, because I've said send that no more than twice. So that will send 2 emails at 3-day intervals, just as a reminder. Okay, the last thing I want to show you in terms of frequently asked questions before we get to some of your questions is one that crops up. What can you do if the user, your Portal user, has forgotten their password and also their security questions? So when you sign up, when you send a link to the client for them to activate their Portal account, they have to they click on the link and they have to set their password, and then they have to answer some security questions. Now, if they've forgotten all of those, Let me just show you how this can work. So I'm already logged in at the moment into the portal, so I'm just going to log out, and I'm going to just take you through the process of so Patsy Stone, let's imagine, has forgotten her password. So she can click the forgot your password link, and she can enter her email address and click the reset password button. And what that will then do is it gives her a link to click to log on, but it will send her an email with a temporary password in it. So let's just go and check Patsy's email, if I can type correctly. We should have so here we are. So we've got an email that she's received saying, you've forgotten your password, here's a temporary password. So I'm just going to copy that password, go back to the login screen. She will click here to log in. And she will enter that temporary password and click login. And the first thing that the system is going to do is ask, what's the name of her favorite restaurant and what's the name of her second pet? And she can't remember either of those items, of those questions. So this is something that comes up quite often. Now, we have no way of knowing what those questions and answers were, and there's no way of resetting them. But what there is here, which people don't often spot, is there's a little hyperlink here to say, you can click here and use your activation code instead. So if you will remember from when you activate a client, the activation ID, if you're not using the SMS authorization, is the client code. So Patsy can ask what her client code, and it is ACLI002, except that it needs to be case sensitive. So I need to do it all in uppercase, and she can use that instead and click OK. And there again, she needs to then, just to finish the process off, enter her temporary password and set a new password. If I type those in the same, it'll be a miracle. And it looks like I have. And there you go, she's managed to get in. Okay, so that was just to highlight that little hyperlink if the client can't remember their security question. And that's the first kind of set of questions FAQs run through. So, Richard, do we have any questions?
We've had lots of questions come through. Sandeep and I have been discussing them as you've been talking there, Michael, and most of them are fairly quick-fire type questions. So what I thought is I will ask the questions and Sandeep's going to answer them. So first question, Sandeep, is from Nick. Can we please have the facility to see what the client sees within Portal?
So, hey guys, it's Sandeep here. You can activate a client record, like a test client in Central, and see the end user experience that way, going through the activation flow, seeing how messages work, attaching documents and approving, rejecting documents. There's currently no facility to sort of have a back office look at an end user's point of view.
Okay. Next question comes from Sarah. Sarah's asked a few questions, and I think one of Sarah's questions came through by email as well, which we'll get to as well. But Sarah's next question is, if you have to send a reactivation email, is the ID the same as the first time?
So if you're using the client code, then the answer would be yes. It would be the same activation ID, which would be the client code. However, if you're using SMS authentication, then the text message they'll receive will have a different 6-digit number every time.
And next question, this time from Steph. How can you search for messages in the message center on CCH? And just given an example, i.e. to find a particular tax issue that was discussed previously.
So within the Mesh Center, there isn't a search facility. However, if the items are stored into document management, you can search through the document center and find the conversations and keywords within the search panel there. They usually get stored as a PDF into the document center.
Next, again from Sarah, can I activate a client if they have the same email address as someone else? i.e. I've got a husband and wife that share an email address.
The answer is no. The username is the email address, which needs to be unique for every user to log in. So you wouldn't be able to share email addresses and have unique logins.
Okay. Michael asks, are there any plans to put the ability to copy another person, either another member of the practice, another employee, or when the client is replying to a message or sending a message, for them to be able to copy someone else within their organisation?
So it's currently being looked at by development, and it's quite a heated topic. It's in the user voice as well. We are looking at that, and it's in the future plans for one-click. However, you can currently, if you're an end user, add an associate contact of yours into a message sent to the practice.
Another question comes from Steph. When a client creates new messages, it shows who on their client team is out of office. However, if they reply to a message from a member of staff who is out of office, it does not say that the person is out of office. Is there a way of notifying the client that a staff member is out of the office?
So that's correct, Steph. There is, because you don't see the to field in the reply message box, you won't see that they're out of office, but I'll pick this up with the dev team to make it more obvious for end users to see.
Okay. Weka has asked a question, and his question is, if, for example, there are 3 people activated for one portal account, can you confirm if we can send a message and select only one individual, or will the other 2 people see that message as well?
So end users will only see messages and documents that are addressed to them, i.e. they are in the to field of the message that's sent from the practice. If you have, for example, a partnership with 2 partners and you send to partner 1, partner 2 will not see either the documents or messages unless they're addressed to them.
Okay, next question, back to Sarah. If you're attaching your tax return, for example, will it, I'm assuming Portal, know to attach everything that you've selected to generate the IR mark, e.g. if you select tax return plus schedules but no computation, will it just add the first to the Portal document, or automatically add the computation?
So when you're publishing a tax return to Portal, as Michael demonstrated, it brings up a box and you can select what pages and document schedules are attached to the file that is sent over to the client. So anything that is ticked will get generated and published. Things that aren't ticked won't be sent over.
The ability to publish to Portal is helpful, but typically we have to send several documents, e.g. accounts, tax returns, letters, all at the same time. So apart from saving everything to disk or document management first, is there a quicker way to send all those documents?
So the quickest method is if you have document management to store them into Document Center and either publish from Document Center as Michael displayed or illustrated, or when you're in the Message Center, create and browse in from the Document Center. You could also save the files, as Fozzie has suggested, onto the disk, maybe into like a client folder, into Windows Explorer, and when you're creating or drafting the messages to browse in and pick up those documents at that time.
Is there any update on the user voice item relating to image logo content in messages, please? Our firm uses these in the email signatures, so our client's perception would take a few backward steps without the functionality within Portal.
So that is something I would monitor on user voice and get users to vote up if it's a needed functionality. We could discuss this with the development team and the product owners. However, if it's something that other practices would benefit from as well, I'd recommend having them upvote it too, or vote it up, so it gets more visibility.
Okay, so while we've been asking those questions, we've had a few come through that I'm just reading at the moment. And the first one might be back to you, Michael, as the presenter. John has asked if you could please go through what happens if the client loses their password again. So would you mind just coming back on, Michael, and just running through that section again? John doesn't specifically ask what he didn't understand from that, but was there anything more that you might need to add to what you just explained there?
Okay, no worries. So I think in the example that I was using, so I'm just looking at logging into Portal from a client's perspective. So we're logged in as Patsy at the moment. So let's just log out and we'll get back to the login screen. So let's imagine that Patsy has forgotten her password. So she comes to log in, and she can remember her, she doesn't actually need to put this in, she can remember her email address, she gets the password and she can't remember what it is. So she clicks the I've forgotten my password, forgot your password link. The system will then say, enter your email address, and it will then, and click the reset password button, and that will then send her an email if that is a valid email address. So you'll see here it's saying if the email address that you entered, so we won't actually say whether or not that's a valid email, that's a security feature, but if that is a valid email address that's recognized within Portal, then you will get a reset email with a temporary password. And so if we then go to her email inbox and check for new emails, you'll see there at the top there, the latest email at 11:33, which is now, is saying, thank you for notifying us you've forgotten your password. Please click this link to log in and use the following temporary password. So I'm just going to copy that temporary password before I click the link, because I'm too lazy to remember it. So she'll click this link, you're taken to the login screen again. She puts in her email address and that temporary password that was in the email, and then clicks login. And then in order to verify that this is actually Patsy, what we're asking for is the answer to her security question. Now, if she knows what the answers to these are, she can simply type them in and click continue. I know that her favorite restaurant is Nando's, or if I'm her, that's what she knows, and the name of her second pet. Now, if she doesn't know the answer to those security questions, if she does, she puts the answers in and clicks continue. If she doesn't, then, as I was saying, there is a hyperlink here where she can use her activation code instead. And the activation code in this particular instance for Patsy would be her client code from within CCH. So let's assume she doesn't know her security questions. Click here to use the activation code. So it's asking for the activation ID. If I go back into Central, you will see there that Patsy's client code there is ACLI002. So she would contact the office and we would tell her that that was her code, ACLI002, and click OK. And now we're successfully logging in. What we now need to do is we need to re-enter the temporary password, and we need to choose a new password that meets the password criteria that we've set within the system. So I'll just do that and click OK. And finally, she's logged in to the portal. So I hope that answers your question.
So the first question, what happens if we change the client code after the client has activated Portal?
So once a client code has been changed, if the client needs to use a client code, for example, if they've forgotten their password and they have to go around the security questions, then they would need to enter the new client code. That information is stored or sent up to the cloud for verification purposes. So when they try to use your client code, it will say invalid activation ID.
Can we change the security questions?
So we ship the security questions based on research that we've done previously. They are set within Central. If a client chooses a security question and answers, we at supports level can reset the questions, but you need to log a support call for us to get that done, and then the client can select from the list again and set the new question. For example, if they don't like Nando's anymore, like Michael's character did, and now they like Pizza Hut, we could get that done for them.
The client is advised that they've changed their mobile phone number. Is it just a case of changing that in Central and then future SMS messages are sent to the new mobile number?
That's correct. So changing the mobile number within the addresses tab of the client or contact record, that will verify up to the cloud, and when they go through the forgotten password prompts, they will get an SMS to the new mobile number. If it's like a mobile number from abroad, you'll need to add the plus and whatever the code is. So +44 for the UK.
Okay. Next question, are attachments automatically saved into the document center when a portal message is sent?
So documents sent for approval or that are stored into a permanent folder will get stored in Document Center. Documents in a shared folder will not, and you will decide whether you want to store them in Document Management or not. You could do that from within the Message Center, within the ribbon, click the Documents button, and drag and drop or tick the document and choose Save to Document Management.
When you want a document approved, the message shows a yellow band, but when that message has been sent, the yellow band is no longer displayed. Why?
That's correct. That's because the document's been sent. If you wanted to check whether a document's been sent for approval or whether it's been approved or not, you can also always go into the ribbon menu, click on the Documents button and locate the document. It will tell you the status, whether it's pending, approved, rejected. You can also click on the approval status and it'll tell you more information if, for example, they've rejected it with a reason.
Okay. Can you add a smart questionnaire facility through the portal where the client can complete and answer questions to autofill CCH?
I would recommend to raise this to user voice as an enhancement request. Maybe go into more detail what type of questions you'd want in there and maybe how often they get sent out. Maybe some more information around that would be useful.
Okay. For the review function, can an employee create a message and send it to a partner to review, but the partner then checks and sends the message instead of the staff member?
So within the Message Center and the draft or create message box, there is an option on the right hand side that says send for review. You would be able to send that message to a partner or a manager or a director to review, maybe spell check, make sure they're happy with the values and the figures in the message. And either if they complete the task themselves, it'll be sent on their behalf, or they can reassign that back to the original staff member or a different staff member to be sent. And when they send it, it will be sent on their behalf.
What is the timeout limit for clients when writing message? And is there a way for them to save a draft message so they don't lose their message?
So the timeout period is 20 minutes. That is the browser default. And that is 20 minutes of inactivity. If a user has any keystrokes or clicks, that should reset the timer. There isn't currently a facility to save a draft message.
Okay. Can I forward an existing message to partner number 2 if the original message was sent to partner number 1, or do you need to recreate the message?
So in the previous scenario I explained, if, for example, you send to partner number 1 for a review or approval, you can then reassign that to partner number 2. Once a message has been sent through the Message Center, you could always right-click and forward that from the Message Center to the partner. It will show up in their portal documents, portal inbox homepage control, and they can do what's necessary with that. However, you must understand that the message has been sent, so if anything's wrong with that document, the best thing to do would be to delete it and then redraft the message.
Next question. Can the approval document include the FBI number for a tax return that has been approved?
I believe this is the IR mark the user is talking about. If you've generated the IR mark through the online filing window and then published then, or it gets saved into document management and you send from document management, it should store the IR number in the document. I believe it's actually on each page of the document. However, I can look into that further and come back to you.
Next question then. When a client drafts a portal message, it CCs other portal users by default. Can this be turned off?
We are looking to turn this off with development.
Okay. How does a client authorize, say, a tax return? Do they get a separate email with a link?
So to approve or reject a document, be it a tax return or any document that's sent over to them, they would receive in the portal a notification email beforehand, just notifying them to log in, and Mike will show you the rest.
I'm just following along there, as Sandeep was saying. So this is one of the messages that I sent earlier on in the demonstration I did, that we were asking for approval. So Patsy has logged into her portal, and this is a tax return that needs approval. To approve it, she will tick the box. Now, I have got a setting as well, a security setting within my central, to say that she can't just tick it to say it's approved. She has actually got to click the document to download it and look at it, which would make a bit of sense before actually approving it. So that's the actual PDF that's just opening up there now. There's the IR mark on each page, as Sandeep was saying at the top there. I don't know if you can see that's quite small on each page of the PDF. And right at the bottom there as well, I've got the audit trail turned on, so we're actually adding an audit trail to the PDF each time something happens. So at the moment, it's just telling me that the document was sent, but when Patsy actually approves this, then that will be appended there as well. So now that she's actually read the document, she can tick the box, and then you see a number of buttons at the bottom right here come up. She can approve, reject, or reply to the message. The status is still there showing as pending. If she clicks approve, she will need to enter her password. Now, this will be interesting because I've changed her password twice today while we were doing this demo, and if I can still remember what it is now, it'll be a wonder. Hopefully that's right. Yes, it is. There we go. So you'll see now that it's approved. And of course, as a result of her approving that, we'll get a message back into the message center to tell us that Patsy has done that as well. Okay, back to you, Sandeep.
Can we be notified when a client activates their portal?
I would recommend raising this to user voice. It would be possible to get an email notification of activation.
Okay. Can we format the text by using bold or italics, for instance, adding hyperlinks, etc., when sending messages within the message center?
Currently, because of the format we use for the text, it's not possible.
Okay. Is it always the client code used for the activation ID?
The activation ID is always a client code unless you enable SMS activation, which will be the six-figure number sent via text message.
Okay. And is the setup of SMS done on the client side?
No, this is implemented by the practice. In the maintenance menu for Portal, there would be a tick box to enable SMS activation. You will get a warning or a prompt advising if the client has, if the client does not have a mobile number, a valid mobile number in their record. On activation, it will notify you, and you have the opportunity to go and add the SMS number in. The number would be in the addresses tab of the client or contact.
Okay. What if the client changes their email address? Do they need a new portal, and do they lose historical information, or does everything just transfer over?
So the email address is the username, and that's also the email address that they get notification emails to. So if a user changes their email address or loses access to their old email address, simply changing the email address within Central under the client contact record in the addresses tab will just mean they use that as the username to log in using the old password, and they'll still be able to see all the old documents and messages that are sent to them.
Okay, so we've got two long questions, so you have to bear with me while I read them. First question is, if we activate Portal Client for their individual tax return and then open access to other businesses, we can't tell which activation code to tell them when they've forgotten their password, as they are linked to different message centers.
So if a client has forgotten their activation their activation code or activation ID, forgotten their password, apologies, and are told to use the activation ID, it would be either the client code of their individual record or the associated company record. Either should work. Okay,
another long question. When a client sends documents and they go into the shared folder, we can't move these within the portal file directory unless the document has been saved in DM. If a client sends a software backup, I would like to file this in the accounts/year folder, but I can't do this as I don't want to file such a large file in document management. Is there a workaround for this?
Currently, there isn't. Any documents that are filed into moved from a shared folder to a permanent folder are asked to be filed into document management, but I can look into this and come back to you.
Okay, so we've just got three short questions to finish off, and then we're going to hand back to Michael. So first one is, how do you activate the audit trail?
So from the portal point of view, there's a small audit trail on the website. So if you had any questions regarding that, we could find out certain information and relay that back to you.
Another question, Sandeep, you've mentioned user voice a few times. Can you just explain what user voice is and where I find it?
So user voice is a forum that is available to all our clients registered to our support website. It's usually a forum for adding ideas, information that you believe will benefit other users and enhance the software. You can access it through Central under the support tab. Under support center, there'll be a button called user voice, and within there, it'll take you to a forum to raise any ideas, look at other users' ideas, and vote them up as well.
So the last question for Sandeep, that's coming back to a question we talked about earlier. It says, if they don't have the activation ID by SMS anymore, how do we get around the forgot password problem?
So I believe this would be if a user has forgotten their password and the practice has turned off the SMS activation, then it will revert back to the activation ID, which is a client code. And then if they've forgotten security questions, they can click that option. But if they know the answer to security questions, they can go through that way.
Okay. And now we're going to hand back to Michael just for the next 10 minutes maximum to provide a quick demonstration of OneClick. Please, Michael.
Thank you, Richard. So I should have a web page here, yeah, and I just need to log in because it would have timed out. So this is me logging in as an employee of my workspace, my OneClick workspace, which I've branded up Walters Kluwer. And this is the view of the tiles that I get when I enter OneClick. So this is, rather than a client's perspective, this is an internal staff member's perspective view of things. And I just wanted, as Richard said, to kind of highlight some of the additional features within OneClick. So we have a messages and documents center, this second tile here, which is very similar to the portal stuff that we've been talking about and showing you today. So I don't propose to actually go into there. What I want to talk about really is the open integration and the Making Tax Digital, and really how we're starting to introduce these features into OneClick. For instance, the digital tax account in future will now be web-based and writes data back directly into personal tax, rather than having to be rekeyed. So open integration, if I click on the open integration tile, it will open up a new tab in my browser. This is where I can collect source data for my clients. So you'll see it opens up with a brief dashboard there. This is quite a small data set that I've got here for demo purposes. So I've only got 8 businesses, 6 of them not active and 2 of them are active from an open integration perspective. And you'll see over on the right here, these are the 2 companies where I've actually done an import, successful import, and actually they're dated today. If I click on the businesses icon on the left there, I get a list of all my businesses. So the name of the business, the client code, and the client type. And then I can actually, if I click into one of those, this is where I can actually link to a source of data. So if I choose this one here that I've called Zero Demo Limited, because again, my imagination is not brilliant. This is one that I've actually set up to sync source data from Zero. So if I click on the status icon here, you'll see that I originally set this up on the 28th of June, and it's been syncing daily ever since, and there's been success all the time. Now, there's actually been no change in data, because when it first synchronized, it brought in 203 transaction headers, hasn't brought anything in since because I haven't changed any of the source data. But if I click on the data tab, you'll see that the actual values of the trial balance from that Zero company have been imported here into OneClick. And as a result, if I went into the accounts production in my central for this particular client for the accounting period, then those values would automatically be imported in as well. Just so if I show you one that isn't currently active, you'll see that when we come to set up an integration for a source of data, I can choose a bookkeeping product. I can choose CCH Accounts Production. There will be the option to import from a CSV file at a future point. If I choose the bookkeeping product, you'll see that I've got a number of options. I can connect to Xero, QuickBooks, Exact, Twinfield, and Stage 1. And simply, if I select one of those, I then need to select the business type, whether it's a limited company or other, and the SIC code. And I won't actually go much further than this, but once you get to that point, you click connect, you're taken through to the API, in this case for Sage. And if I knew my account details for there, which I can't remember right now, I'd log them in, and then that would take me back to my open integration page and successfully sync the data if I'd got the right authentication. So that's the open integration. which obviously means that it's a much easier way of getting data into one click from numerous sources. The MTD functionality, so if I click on the MTD tab, that will also open up a new tab in one click. MTD functionality will allow you to file your quarterly MTD submissions when MTD becomes mandatory in 2020, and also to file the VAT returns electronically via the MTD gateway from, as you know, April 2019. I have here, again, to appear in the Making Tax Digital screen, businesses within my centrally have to be open integration businesses or MTD ready businesses. So again, if I click on my all clients tab here, the 4 clients that make up either of those scenarios are listed. So that's because they've got a personal tax return that's been set up, or they're suitable for open integration, which lets them appear in here. And there is a section for quarterly reporting to start the quarterly reporting process off when that also becomes relevant. There is also, just going back to the home screen, digital data review. There is a digital data request app, which and coming soon will be the web page that's associated with that, which will allow you as practices to request information and receive it electronically from your clients. So you can send a digital data request to the client to collect the information. They can complete it and submit it, and it comes back into your one click. So that's just a very brief brief overview. We're going to expand on that, and Richard's going to talk to you a little bit about that now. If I just hand back to Richard. Before I show those final slides, Richard, have you got any more questions that we need to address?
We've had 3 questions come in while you're talking. 2 of them relate to what you were just talking about there, Michael. And those 2 questions were, which I'll answer. First one was, is one-click the bridging software required to send documents from agents to HMRC? And yes, so the Making Tax Digital functionality, there's 2 parts to that. One is the quarterly Making Tax Digital submissions that will be required from 2020, and that functionality was originally going to be required from this year, I believe, and so that was built into one-click already, and that HMRC then decided to delay that. The other part of Making Tax Digital is the mandatory filing of VAT returns from within software, and as opposed to your clients or you on behalf of your clients logging onto HMRC's website to file VAT returns. And that is functionality we're working on at the moment for release later this year. So those practices that want to be part of the pilot will be able to be a part of the pilot for using the one-click functionality to file VAT returns under MTD, and that will be in place for everyone to use from April 2000, from early 2019, but in time for the April period when it becomes mandatory. Second question relating to what Michael was just showing. How will clients be informed when they need to log into documents messaging using different passwords? So part of if you're a portal user at the moment and you're interested in migrating to one-click, contact your account manager and they will work with you, and part of my role is working with the practices that are doing the migration process from portal to one-click. But part of the process is advising your clients what you're doing, and we've got various resources to help you advise your clients what you're doing, including a flyer that you can send that tells them all about what one-click is. They will be required to, all history from portal will be transferred over to one-click when or if you choose to move from portal to one-click, but they will be required to set up their user profile again. So it'll go through the same or similar client activation process at what you have for portal now, but they will be asked to put in, create a new password. But again, as I say, if you want to explore that a little bit further, what Michael's going to show you in a few moments is we have a webinar coming up next Monday that will take you through the aspects of one-click in a lot more detail than what we've done today. But also talk to your account manager if this is something of interest. Last question relating to the portal side of things for Sandeep. I can't remember who asked the question, but do you have the same issue? Oh, okay. So this was when we were talking earlier about email addresses, and husband and wife can only have, they have to have 2 different email addresses to be 2 different clients. Similar question is they've only got 1 cell phone number, or it might be a family you're doing tax returns for children, and a father perhaps is the example that this person's given. They've only got 1 cell phone number. So what happens from SMS authentication point of view?
So as at the moment, the SMS or the text message is sent on the forgotten parcel activation stage, that would be fine. It doesn't need to be unique, and the text will still be sent to the mobile number in question. Of course, it would require the phone to be physically, or the person to be physically there, or to relay the activation ID, the code, over to the user trying to log in at that time.
Okay, so the purpose of this webinar was to answer questions that you had, and I think we've done a good job of keeping on top of the questions. So I don't know how many questions we end up answering there. And thank you for your time this morning.